mid to
So
low $40,000
my question
range.
to you is, like, what would be the right price for an EV, right? Because I'm thinking instead of a 60 or even $40,000 EV, I've always felt like shouldn't EVs be in theory cheaper because they don't have nearly the complexity or parts that a combustion engine does? So couldn't you in theory get them down to like $10,000? And then imagine if you could get a little $10,000 bopper commuter that maybe has, yeah, 150-mile range or 100-mile range, but it again, because it has a smaller battery, it's cheaper to charge. It's a smaller car. You can fit into every parking spot. You get tax credits. All of a sudden, it's looking like a really great deal at $10,000, even if it's not like your family vehicle. You know, 10,000. What would your price be for an EV?
I would even pay like 25.
Yeah, yeah, I could see it if it's a nicer car, right? Yeah, if it's a nicer
Yeah,
car.
like let's say the equivalent of like a Chevy Impala, right?
Okay. Before I wrap up the pre-show, one last question for you. Since I have you here, we just saw a news report from the New York Times that major investment firms are leaving climate change initiatives like crazy. Like the funds are just getting, like, all the biggest backers of the funds of these like bundled funds are pulling out, starting with BlackRock, and then it has just been a snowball effect since then. Same with the diversity initiatives, the DEI initiatives, and things like that. Like the organizations that have been getting funding, their big backers have been pulling out in the last few months. So we just talked about EVs, like the EV stuff. Like, is it all economy? Do you think? Is it all money? Something has shifted with the funding of the DEI initiatives and the ESG initiatives. ESG standing for
Yeah,
environmental, social, and governance.
it's the same thing, right? When you don't have excess capital because the printer's going burr burr burr, you start cutting, and like two very obvious things to cut are, as the consumer, do I need to trade in my Chevy to buy an EV? And the answer is no, right? And as a enterprise, all these initiatives for ESG and DEI, well, they're not really. I know some people would say, well, they do help the bottom line ultimately, but there's no, clear accounting, old-fashioned way to look at it and say, oh yes, this investment of X dollars leads to Y revenue. So
I think that's it fundamentally, is they looked at it, and especially when money is really easy and you can get loans that are below inflation, and you can have guys that are looking for places to throw money. Like, your metrics aren't necessarily about market performance. They can be more like about social and environmental things that you're doing, if that's what's getting traded by the Wall Street people, and if that's where, depending on your score there, that makes your main stock more attractive. So the company naturally pivots its incentives. It pivots to its incentives, which is, get the buyers on Wall Street happy by pumping these numbers. Then we saw this last year. Then it became all about value. Wall Street rewarded value. So you saw Meta and Amazon and Microsoft and all of them do major layoffs because they were doing what investors wanted. And now I think it's about focusing in on and actually getting, again, market traction, because the money printer's been off now for 2 years, and so they need actual revenue coming in. And now it's more about getting the best people possible because there's a quote-unquote AI race, and if you don't have great staff and talent, then you're going to get left behind, blah, blah, blah. Like, all these things, I think, are playing against it. And then lastly, not to really touch the third rail, but the Biden White House went and got involved in an energy war and then encouraged Europe to adopt policies that have undermined their overall energy loadout. And so they're stranded. They have massive energy issues. We really have essentially an energy war happening. And so in an energy war, it's a lot harder to, play the moral game. And, it gets a lot more down to just, we need this energy any way we can get it. And we can't get the natural gas the way we need it. We can't get the resources we need to build the solar as fast as we need. So we're just going to burn coal. And there's this weird pivot that happens at the government level and at the business level. And I think all these factors are coming together. And now the New York Times is just kind of figuring it out because the writing is on the wall. It's obvious. All right, there you go. That's my take. I don't know if anybody cares. Let me know if you do care. I've been following it in this little pre-show time because it's been kind of about for the last 6 months. It's just started. It kicked off. I know the exact moment it started. And it's wild because this has been such an influence. So it's crazy to have witnessed the moment it all started. And it was Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, and I believe he was on Fox Business, and they asked him about their ESG investments, and he said he's pulling back, and he feels like ESG has gotten a bad reputation, and they want to distance themselves as an organization. And that was the moment. And I couldn't believe I watched it live. And I have been watching one domino after another since he said that live on Fox Business. And BlackRock was one of the original banks that came up with the whole scheme of rating companies based on these other scores besides market metrics, because it let them bundle a bunch of junk companies and pump their stock. That was really it. Anyways, that's my take. Now I really am done. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with me on the pre-show. Mr. Dominic and I have a show to do, right? You want to do a podcast over there?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. Chat room, we're going to need a title. So I'm going to start the title bot. So please bang suggest. I just started up the commercial streams too. Nope. What is this? 558? Yes. Sweet. Look at us go. We're almost to 560. Can you believe it? Mm-hmm. All right, I'm excited. It's going to be a great episode. Close his ugly face. Get his face off here. All right. And okay, chat room. Oh, man. All right, and recording there. Hello, Drew. Getting started on the Coda program. Do I have enough water? Yes, I do. Okay, then all we really need is a good chat room bang suggest. And there's not a lot of people in there this morning. I tried to warm them up. Maybe people just, maybe what we really need, I think, is a web client. An easy way for them to get into the chat room via the web. Remember IRC?
Yeah.
God, that was great.
It was, it really was, I think, the best of all the things we've used.
Remember Adium?
Oh, Adium.
I mean, just for a hot minute, we had it all, dude. For a hot minute, you know? Apple made the phone, time. Google made the apps, and we had IRC. It was a thing. All right, here we go. It's the Schmoder time. Oh, we haven't done our four. I forgot we forgot something. We need to do our 4 count. Sorry, Drew. I assume we need to do a 4 count. You could always let me know if we don't need to do the 4 count, Drew. That'd be fine too. Okay, Mike, jump in at 4.
Mm-hmm.
1, 2, 3, 4.
4.
Okay. Here we go. For reals this time. This is Coda Radio, episode 558 for February 20th, 2024. Hey friend, welcome in to Jupiter Broadcasting's weekly talk show, taking a pragmatic look at the art and the business of software development and the world of technology. I'm over here in the Pacific Northwest, and joining us over there in Florida, it's our host, Mr. Dominic. Hello, Mike.
Misa here riding a gator.
Oh, no. I knew it. I had a sense. Like, everything in the pre-show was going so well. You know, I just knew he'd show up. I just knew it.
Well, listen, Jar Jar in Florida, I can't believe I haven't done something like that before where they cross the streams.
You know, there's a lot of, like, what is Jar Jar's homeworld called?
Naboo.
Yeah, there's a lot of crossover there. You're right. When I think of Florida, I kind of picture Naboo.
Well, and the Gungans literally live in a swamp.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Now, you just need some underwater cities, and I'd visit more often, you know?
If you want to swim in many of our fine freshwater rivers and lakes, you go ahead and try that.
I don't think so. Think so. Hey, so you got my interest piqued because I saw that you've leveled up as a stereotypical dad, and I'm all about hearing what this is about. What's going on?
So I went on a binge of watching HBO's John Adams. I think it's like a 7 or 8 part miniseries starring Paul Giamatti, and between that and just lots of World War II audiobooks, I feel like I've attained just a new, honestly, like peak of dadhood here. It's like all Revolutionary War, all World War II, all the time. And I gotta tell you, it's like the show in particular, John Adams is really good. You could tell where they tried to like modernize things and have more modern sensibilities, but it's just really well done, and
That's always been on my watch list because I remember. I mean, it's been forever since they made the show, if I recall. But I do remember the buzz about the show being that they had all these personal notes between him and his wife Abigail that they could draw from for context. Like they had so much documented in their own writing that they could pull from that it was like you almost had to make a story around this. That always seemed interesting.
it's really well written. Like if you've ever like read some of his letters, he was kind of a pompous asshole, and they do carry that through pretty well.
He was a man of
it's-
strong conviction.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Are you getting the vibes, though? I'm wondering, watching a show like that, do you get the whole hard times create strong men create good times create weak men create hard times? Like, are you getting those vibes watching this? Because that's what would be going through my head, I think.
A little bit. There's a whole subplot about his sons where, John Quincy, who, spoiler, also becomes president, right? Is definitely less tough than his father, but more, he does his duty. He's got that like very Protestant, Pilgrim's Progress work ethic, where his younger son Charles just loves that hooch, baby, and has some troubles.
Well, you kind of make him. I don't know how you do this, but you're making me kind of want to watch it. Dang it!
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I think the guy who plays Ben Franklin is hilarious, and he's been in a ton of other shit too. I can't remember off the top of my head, but he's just so funny, and he's like always running around with women, and it's a pretty like they don't glamorize too much.
We usually do the show talk at the end of the show, but I want to add one more thing.
Sure.
And I know I've mentioned it to you, but I've been watching. I'm on the last season. It's 4 seasons of Westworld, an HBO show that started years ago. But what is really fascinating to watch a show like this years after it's done is to see how far ahead they were on AI and AR glasses and some of this tech that we're talking about today is integral to the story plot. And then the idea of like these AIs becoming something bigger that you could even move between different host bodies or maybe different systems that store it and kind of moving those intelligences around. And it's a pretty fun show for our current times. I think it actually holds up maybe better now than it did where maybe it seemed more fantastical when it came out. So that's Westworld. It is an HBO show, so I'm not sure how you get your hands on it. But I guess there's 2 HBO shows we're plugging. There we go. They should send us a check. Except for we just gave it away for free.
Subscribe to Hulu, Max, whatever the hell it is.
One more thing.
Fun will now commence.
Somebody out there went to the hard work of taking a QuickTime event-based game, The Borg. It's a Star Trek series, and they have not only up-resed it and cleaned it up, but they've made it a web app that you can play on any device. We'll put a link to it in the show notes.
This unsung hero.
BorgRemastered.com.
Yeah, so for the youngins out there, there was a dark time in the 90s where the video game industry thought, wouldn't it be cool if you could play a movie?
Yeah. It was right when like CD-ROMs became popular, and
Right.
CD-ROMs are great for video. So Apple created this great system that they called QuickTime events. So all of these were QuickTime player based too, which was awful on Windows, just awful.
I mean, I guess the closest analogy would be like those children's books that are like, do you open the door on the left or the right? Page 10 for the left, page 15 for the right. What do they call them? Choose your own adventure?
Yeah.
Yeah, basically what these are, right? I mean,
that's a good analogy. Yeah, these are choose your own adventure. Well, life's kind of a choose your own adventure. It is.
Oh, that was...
It is though. If you're a Star Trek fan, it is a must play because it is right when the between like TNG and Voyager era.
Yep.
So they have the sets. It is actually produced by Star Trek staff. John Delancey stars in it, and it takes place around Wolf 359. I mean, we are really going off track here, but it's just so neat to see something like this come back. So I just wanted to mention it.
Yeah, and I think we all miss Stowe is really what's happening.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I just for a moment, just to go back to the QuickTime event aspect of it, it is really something to think now how this would be done. Right? It starts with a YouTube video in bed, and then they're just playing these QuickTime events. The experience back in the 90s was you'd put it in these slow CD-ROM drives that would spin up. And if you're on Windows,
So bad.
they would auto start like this horrible auto start program. And if they were on the Mac, it'd mount it on your desktop and it would be different for each game. And then you maybe would install some of it, but just the player aspect of it because your drive was so small. So all the videos had to remain on the CD. So then you always had to have the CD in when you wanted to play the game because the videos were too big to store on your hard drive. Of course, it happened later. We could, but yeah.
And if you were, poor like me and you had an aftermarket CD drive that you installed yourself in your shitty beige compact that you kept modding up,
of course,
you could actually hear when you made a choice, it flipping the track. Right.
Or like if you waited too long, you would spin it down and then the whole UI would like kind of freeze up while it waited for the CD to spin back up so then it could have access to the disc.
Yeah, because it had to load in the data in a big enough chunk to actually know what it was doing. Yeah, the jank, just so much jank.
And now you can play it on your cell phone with an HTML app. And it really shows you that is kind of neat. It is much, much better this way, but the technology was all part of it. And it was so low res. But if you're a Star Trek fan, I think it's a must play. Or if you're just a fan of classic old video games, because I've been thinking more and more about this. Like, how do you preserve these types of games and software that are unique to a specific medium or technology?
Well, you copy that floppy, baby. Because see, this is going to be a problem, I think, for this generation of games where everything has a service. Once they killed it, I mean, we had a couple weeks ago, we were talking about the. We really went off the rails here, but Matrix Online, where the community came together and reverse engineered the actual back end to an MMO.
Well, I had the realization when I found a 3DS emulator for the Meta Quest, and I thought to myself, well, wait a minute now. How was I ever going to fully experience a 3DS Mario game again without going on eBay and buying a used 3DS? And all of a sudden, in VR, it lends itself to be the perfect place to run a 3DS emulator. It's even better than when you used to play it in person. And it's on a much larger screen. And I thought, wow, without VR, you really would never be able to experience this fully again without owning the practical physical hardware.
Yeah, well, unless you're like me and just finally acquired an analog pocket.
There you go.
Then you can't do 3DS, but you can slam in your GBA and Game Boy Color cartridges, assuming they still work and the batteries that save the games are alive, which is a big assumption.
trustebook.com/coder, trusteebook.com/coder. So Mr. Dominic had an appointment with an Apple rep since our last episode to demo the Apple Vision Pro. And did you bring your credit card, and how did it go?
I did bring my credit card.
Oh, you master of self-control. I'm impressed.
But I'll not bury the lead here. I did not buy one.
Okay.
So it was, I have to say, I've given lots of demos and I've received lots of demos. These guys have this down pat. It was very smooth. I found it physically uncomfortable, but I think that's because I have a big head. I'm not joking. That.
And did you only try the one style of strap?
Yeah, I tried the one style. They showed me the developer strap, which I still don't entirely understand what that's for.
I guess if you're loading large apps onto it for testing, it's much better than the wireless connection.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's like plugging in your iPad instead of doing the Wi-Fi build.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
I mean, I'd like to say I have mixed feelings, but I really don't. It's no doubt impressive, but I didn't like wearing it. I think I had it on for like 10, 15 minutes. They had a demo MacBook set up. They were really pushing this, like where you could just, the thing where you mirror the Mac into it.
That's got to be the biggest app for it right now.
I think that is the killer app right now, like especially if you're selling it to like developers or people for productivity.
And rumor has it internally, Apple has a build that'll do 2 displays from the Mac.
Okay. I mean, I can't say it's not impressive, right? Because it is impressive what it does, how it tracks your eyes is good. I can't see myself wearing one of these for any real period of time. I am, however, making a purchase.
Oh?
Of the Meta Quest 3.
Oh!
Because I did ask one question, and the young lady demoing it, kind of stumbled a bit. Well, I mean, I said, okay, so I have an old Quest. Oh, this is much better. I was like, there's definitely it's cooler. Like, what about games?
Yeah.
And like, there's some stuff in the Apple Arcade, and it's not like, by all means, it's not bad. Like Fruit Ninja's there because, of course, they're there, right? But Quest just came out, or I don't think they developed it themselves, right? What was the name of that RPG? I should have.
Oh yeah, no, that might have been from them. They do have a Game Labs.
Oh, they have a game studio.
Yeah, and they're making a couple of the really good games right now.
I mean, it looks. I wish. Oh my god, I can't. We have too much chat here. I can't scroll up fast enough. But there is a game in the Meta Quest. God damn it! It basically looks like VR Skyrim.
Yeah, yeah.
I have not yet tried Supernatural, but I've seen demos, and I know some folks who are, dad bod aficionados such as Chris and I. And I'm thinking maybe Supernatural is worth a go. And the big thing is the Quest 3 is affordable. It's a lot easier to take a flyer on something like this that in the worst case will be a niche gaming thing that people come over, they could fool around with, the kids can play with, whereas $3,500 is just too much damn money.
Asgard's Wrath and Asgard's Wrath 2 are the two.
That's it. Yeah, Asgard's Wrath 2. That's the one.
This is both good and bad in my opinion. Still using now for a few weeks. I'm still using it. The Quest is a game's first device. That's good, and that's bad, right? If you want it only for productivity, if that's only your your main goal. But it's also kind of nice because it means that when you're not working, there's still a lot of stuff you can still do with that purchase. And some of these games are fantastic and worth it alone, I think, for that. They kind of make playing games on the TV feel old and busted, in my opinion. Well, wow. So have you bought it yet? Have you ordered it yet? Have you decided if you're getting the 128 or the 512, etc.?
No, I'm still doing my research. I mean, my instinct is just to go big and get the 512. But will I really need it?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if I do yet. I like having that space, and the nice thing is it does come with Asgard's Wrath 2 right now. So you get the game with it.
So I got to see how much the game, but it might, yeah.
It's like $40.
Okay, so Asgard's Wrath 2 is $60.
Oh,
so they're pricing.
Yeah. Okay. Jeez.
All right, so that starts to make a lot of sense. Also, if you have never played Resident Evil 4 somehow, since it can run on a toaster, apparently it's available for the Quest.
Well, I'll be curious to see if you try out Immersed or the screen sharing stuff to see what you think about it for working too. I'll be interested to know, like, you try adding like some screens to it. I think Immersed is the way to go, the Immersed app.
Well, no. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just start with the Exorcist Legion VR.
Yeah.
Because I need to get some coding done, and I need to pull a couple all-nighters, and I'm pretty sure the Exorcist in VR can do it.
I am, in a weird, gross, self-guilt way, bullish on Meta and Zuck and the Quest. I watched an interview with Zuckerberg in a podcast I'll have linked in the show notes called, I think, Morning Brew. And they threw a couple of hard questions at him. And the Zuck had some good answers. First of all, zoom out here for a moment. I think he's working on rehabbing his image. I think personally, just watching him, the MMA fighting has made him more confident. And as a result, he's now willing to go out and answer any question and deal with people directly. And he's a little bit better at it. And he is showing sides of himself that he hasn't shown before. And I think that's going to do well for him. But here's the things that he's pointed out, or others have pointed out over the last few weeks, that I think you just can't deny. Number one, in the VR race, Meta is a way nimbler company than Apple by about 5 years. Meta can turn on a dime and has turned on a dime a couple of times. And they have internal teams that will stand up quickly. Apple is like turning a ginormous freight ship. It took them 10 years to develop Apple Vision Pro, 3 years to develop the HomePod, et cetera, et cetera. And they have all this momentum, Apple does. Not only that, Zuck is 39. Tim Cook's about to retire in a few years. Same over at Microsoft. Same over at Google. He's going to outlast all these guys. And he's a founder. These other guys, they're not founders. They are second and third order CEOs. They've come after the people who created the companies. They're the second generation, which we just had a conversation about that. Zuck's the OG. He's 39. He's the OG. and he's more in it than ever. Additionally, they have way, way, way more chops at the social interaction stuff, which is going to be a major point of contention over in the Apple Vision Pro land. And it's been a point of contention in the reviews. Nilay specifically pointed out many times he felt lonely in the headset. Well, guess who's good at social? Meta.
Right.
And they've already baked it in. And they're only going to get better at that. And they're going to have the collaborative work together thing where you don't do it alone. And not only that, the Meta headsets, the Quest headsets, are easier to share with family members. They don't have to go through a reorientation or a guest mode and a whole thing every time like you do with the Apple Vision Pro. They're $300 to $500. So you can buy one for your team, you can buy one for your spouse if you want to do it with somebody else, etc. You can't really do that easily with the Vision Pro. So that's also adding momentum to the collaborative aspect of these. So you have Meta's nimbleness, you have Zuck as an OG founder who's 39 years old, who's at the prime of his life in shape and mental acuity and runway. Then you have the obvious lead they have with anything to do with social, and it's built into their very genetics. And then you add the price point. I'm happy Apple's made the Vision Pro, but I put all that together, and I think Meta's going to be one of the tech companies that is really in this for the long haul. And if it doesn't work out, they'll just pivot to something that does, because they've still got a cash cow making money for them all the time, and they can do that.
Yeah.
I hate it, but I'm weirdly bullish on Zuck and Meta.
I feel the same way. I also just noticed perusing their catalog, xCloud is on here. It's still in beta, but so that means your Xbox Live Arcade or all those games can be. And
not just that, my friend. So is Steam Link. And it works like a champ. It auto-discovered my Steam Deck on my network, and I just started playing all of my Steam games inside the Quest. I was able to pair an Xbox-compatible Bluetooth controller to the Quest in about 10 seconds, and that works great. So, it's a weird category, but I think once you've seen it, you're in. And I feel like they got it here. All right, I want to take a moment just to talk about something kind of neat that's happened here at JB. So, we've been doing podcasts since 2006, and we made it formal in 2008, and Coder came along not too long after that, so long time. And never really took a break, never stopped since. And we've never really gotten noticed by any of the big podcast apps out there. They're always paying attention to the New York Times podcasts and all of that stuff. They couldn't really care about a niche that we focus on. But then Podcasting 2.0 came along, and a new generation of podcast apps came along, and a new metric to measure audience engagement came along, and that was boosts. And we've been noticed now by several of these apps because our audience boosts in with great comments, and these comments are often like inside the app so people can read them, and the app creators are noticing. And last week, one of the co-creators of Fountain.fm reached out to me, one of the great Podcasting 2.0 apps, and said, we've really been impressed. We think, you're kind of a standout because you guys aren't a Bitcoin native show. You don't only talk about Bitcoin, but you're getting great support from the audience. You seem to get value for value. What we want to do is we want to have more listeners like yours on the Fountain app. How do we make Fountain better to attract listeners like what JB has? No podcast apps before this have ever reached out to us. And so what we've committed to do is we're going to meet weekly every Thursday, and we're going to run through a list of anything people boost in that they would like to see added or fixed about Fountain, why they haven't switched. Tell me why you're not switching to Fountain. Ideally, I'd love you to try it out if you haven't for a little while, because they've done a bunch of just banger updates. And if you could give it a go and boost in or write in and tell me why you're not switching. Ideally, if you boost in, they'll see it too. So then I don't have to copy it for them. And tell me why you're not switching, or what would make you switch, or maybe why you have switched. But they'll read all of that, so maybe don't make it all negative if you have something good to say. Then I'm going to meet with them on Thursday. We're going to go over it, and we're going to try to bang out as many of these issues as we can. And we won't get to all of them, but maybe we'll get them on the list, if nothing else. But we'll try to bang some of them out and get things in top shape before I leave for Scale, which is about 3 weeks away. So we met last week on Thursday. We're going to meet for the next 3 weeks. and we're going to try to bang this stuff out until I leave. So I would love to invite you to go try out Fountain FM again, or try it for the first time if you haven't. Tell me what you like or what you don't like, and then keep it, because in the future, probably not too long after I get back from Scale, we'll be converting the Coda radio feed into a 2.0 feed, and we'll be live in the app. And you can just be subscribed and know when we're live and listen in if you like. It's kind of exciting. I feel seen. So I want to say thanks to the Fountain team. Shout out to the Podverse team, too. They've always been really great and worked with us. It's a fantastic app as well. And it's, I don't know, you put like 20 years of effort into something. It's kind of nice when some people stand up and say, hey, you kind of built a great audience over there.
That's right.
I think it was you. You know, they said people that
me?
Yeah, well, people that follow Michael Dominic are quality that we want using our app. You know what I mean? Like,
I agree. They are folks who understand the glory that is Phantom Menace, first off, and that's important. That kind of taste and sophistication, you know, understanding that Jar Jar was indeed the true hero of the story.
So I wasn't sure I was going to talk about this week, but I had a little realization. I have been struggling for months now with failing hardware here at the studio. I got an old rig with a drive that's about to pop, and the audience has very generously donated me some used rigs, but they also now had some drives fail on me. And they just needed infrastructure like a rack and power and networking and all of that stuff done. So there's a lot of pre-projects. And then I got it all online, and then the drive started popping. So I thought, okay, well, I need to do something temporarily. And we have this, it's called like a LaCie 2 Big Thunderbolt 2 disk array. And it has two 4 terabyte disks in this kind of removable storage enclosure that has Thunderbolt 2 and USB 3 out the back. So I think, well, all right, what could I do with these? What I'll do is I'll take the data off the failing array, and I'll temporarily house it on this LaCie storage array, which 8 terabytes is what it has by default. But I thought, you know, I don't want to have another drive pop on me. So what I should do is I should probably put that into mirror mode. It'd only be 4 terabytes, but that's still enough for just kind of what we need for right now. All right, so I look it up. Okay, all right. The only way to put this sucker into mirror mode is an app in macOS. Oh, okay, so I got to go get the LaCie RAID Manager app. All right, well, I guess I'm going to need an adapter because this is Thunderbolt 2, and all of the Macs I have are Thunderbolt 3 and up. So, all right, so I order the stupid Apple adapter from Amazon, so I wait 2 days. It shows up, and then it sits for a little bit because, like, I'm not using the Mac, so, like, I didn't have it handy. And so I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, I got to remember to bring the Mac up and hook it up. So I set it all down, hook it all up, download the app, install it, power up the disk thing, and the RAID Manager doesn't see it. Now, mind you, I'm not here to deal with some weird Mac app and do RAID management. I just want to copy the data off the failing disk and get back to working on shows and sponsors. Because, like, I got a list as long as possible. Like, it's so overwhelming. I got to get back to that. So I'm like, okay, why doesn't it see it? All right, so I go look up on their support. There's like one document that says, well, if it doesn't see the RAID Manager doesn't see the disk. If it doesn't see the disk, what you should probably do is update the firmware. Go download this little command line app for the Mac, and I'll update your firmware. Okay, so I download that, extract it, run it. Oh, yeah, look at this. You're way out of date. Yeah, I don't know if this thing's ever been updated. Oof. Would you like to proceed? You know what? Let's go ahead and proceed, I say. I hit yes. Begins the flash process. 1, 2, 5, 10, 20, 40, 50, 100%. New version prints out. Firmware done. I think to myself, all right. Well, the disk hasn't remounted, but let's just reboot, because if you reboot, it cuts power to the Thunderbolt bus for a moment. Everything power cycles, so we'll just reboot. So I reboot the Mac. Leave everything connected, comes up. The disk isn't mounted. Was mounted before I ran the firmware updater, not mounted now. So I launched the RAID Manager, still doesn't see the disk. I launched the firmware updater, now it doesn't see the disk array. Nothing sees, so okay, well, is the Mac just broken? So I unplug it from the Mac, I plug it back into the original Linux box, which did always see it. It just saw it as 8 terabytes, and again, I wanted to mirror it. Plug it into the Linux box. That's going to be the temporary spot where I store this. It doesn't see the array. I bricked the array by using their official firmware updater. Right, and I'm rushing through all of this, and I'm getting to a point where I've got 3 different systems that are in some sort of failed state, and I'm like, well, how have I done this to myself? because the tooling is really important that I use to make these shows. And I consider that to be I want to put as much I want those to be as quality as I make the shows. But somehow I've backed myself into this corner, and it's very frustrating. It's made me want to just get rid of all of my infrastructure for the business and put it in the cloud somehow. And not deploy I just put everything on AWS. I don't know. I don't even think I want like systems that we SSH into that have scripts or something. I don't want any of that. I was just so done with it. I'm like, how have I gotten to this point? Because I'm all about self-hosting and being reliant on my own infrastructure. And it dawned on me. I've gotten to a point where I'm so focused on the show content and revenue because of the ad winter that anything else feels like a nuisance. And not only that, I can't get my ADD brain to actually think through it properly. So I'm like half-assing everything by accident. I don't even realize I'm doing it because I'm not focused on it. And so I'm just going through the movements, doing the next thing that I can kind of think of without sitting down and just thinking through the entire thing. And I get myself into these situations over and over again, and I think where I end up is like, well, I don't even want to do that anymore. Like I need to not even be working on that. And I think there might be truth to it. Like maybe I shouldn't be running a bunch of infrastructure if I'm just trying to focus on doing the podcast. But
right.
I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, the problem is you like to tinker, though. I would you really be able to give up all that sweet control?
Yeah, I mean, or how I look at it is we can like jump on new things and features before everybody else, and that is a thing I love to do. It's like kind of what I really love to do. I love that stuff.
Sort of your thing.
Yeah, but God, if I'm not just burning myself out so bad. And we're at a point now where we need to rebuild a lot of the infrastructure. And it's like, do I want to build another tech debt kingdom? Like, I know the problem is that we can't do what I want with services alone. But there's a part of me that just fantasizes that the only thing the business really does is make the shows. And then everything else is just done by people who focus on that. But it would never work. And it'd be too expensive, too. There's that. There's the economics of it. I don't know. I'm curious because I know you've dabbled self-hosting. Are you still running a data center? Are you still self-hosting infrastructure? Yes.
No.
Did you go through this?
Yeah. The ROI just wasn't what I hoped it would be, and I spent a lot of time hoofing it to make sure things were running, or this drive died, the building lost power, right?
Yeah.
Are the UPCs working? It was just a lot of...
Here's where I get stuck. I know somebody listening saying, well, you just need to delegate, Chris. You need somebody else to do it. Yeah, well, there's people on the team that I've offered and are trying. The problem is a lot of it still needs my interaction. And so it's like I still have to do the work now in order to enable somebody else to do that work. And I don't have the time, or what's even worse is I can't get my mind to focus on it because I kind of have things that are existential crises that I have to focus on. And until the crises are solved, I can't really think about like, well, this array supports these size disks with this sector size, and it's a SAS controller, but it'll take a SATA disk if I get these types of SATA disks. Like, I don't have time to sit down there and think through all that and then think which systems I want to build it out on. It's a wild situation I find myself in. So delegating creates more work. And then I'm subject to somebody else's schedule and timeline when they have the time and energy to work on it, which is almost always after I've been working for 12 hours, or I've been working all day, or whatever, or I've just done a show, or I'm in the middle of doing a show. So it's like things don't really work well when I'm driven by somebody else's schedule as well. Another flaw of mine, I'm sure. But you stack them all up, and I'm really in a pile now. And it's like I just don't want to deal with hardware anymore. I don't necessarily mind running the software and the services, but I'm so sick and tired of hardware. I've got 3 rack mount servers in a studio that has no cooling infrastructure. It's got a piss poor power setup that I've done the best I can with. It really is a thing, man. And it's at the same time, I want to drive certain features. I want to drive certain value for the audience, and I want to be first at certain things. And when it is all humming, it's a really great setup. And for the last 5 or 6 years, it has been humming real well. just we're getting to that point.
Yep. It's always like the same thing, right? So I'm strongly considering hiring another person again. And it's the same problem. There's a whole lot of more process and just setting things out. Because, when you're working with people you've worked with for years, you know this. They kind of just know what the procedures are and what to do. Mm-hmm. And I'm exact same boat as you. Like, to set that up, right, to document those processes and have like an effective onboarding mechanism that makes sense given how much things have changed for the business over the last couple of years, I would have to probably take a week, stop what I'm doing, and set that all up, and then probably at least another week or 2 weeks to successfully onboard someone, right?
Yeah, it's here's the other problem is when I mention this stuff on air, I usually get inundated with so many DMs that I can't really process it all. So if you have tips, I would like them, but send them in as a boost. Support the show and send them as a boost, and that way I can divvy it all up. Like what's it called when you not isolation, but I try to have like a moments of time where I can time slice for each show. And the problem with a DM, although sometimes they're appreciated, don't get me wrong, I don't get to properly time slice it, right? I have to context shift between shows with DMs and stuff. But with the boosts, it's all within the time slice when I'm working on Coder.
Yeah, DMs are also easy to say, I'll get back to that, then totally forget.
That
might be a mic problem. Yeah.
Who, you? Us? No, not us.
Ask not what your podcast can boost for you, but what you can boost for your podcast.
Yeah, speaking of boost, it is the ad winter. Your support is much appreciated. Fountain FM is a great way to boost, and they're integrated with the Strike app. The Strike app is probably one of the easiest ways to grab some sats. You don't have to sit there and become an investor or anything like that. You just grab them and send them. It's real easy. It's just a quick exchange. And Sir Alex Gates comes in as our baller this week with 16,000 sats. Yes, in the podcasting, Tudor Consulting came in across 2 boosts and writes, the CUDA lock-in is a big problem and arguably anti-competitive at this rate. He says, yes, alternative hardware does exist, but I agree, Mike. The CUDA lock-in is probably why we're seeing NVIDIA's stock go crazy. Although as we come out, they may have just crashed nice because they're supposed to release their market results today, and the expectations are just phenomenal.
Ooh, yeah, hang on, Yahoo Finance.
Oh, yeah, they might come out
do
during
it right
the show.
now. Do it live. Let's see. Where is NVIDIA?
That CUDA lock-in, though, that CUDA lock-in is maybe their master move of...
All right, they're down 4.6-ish points.
Yeah. Well, and they've been on just such a run. They're a massive company now, and I think the expectation is that they can't quite keep the hype going, but maybe with that CUDA lock-in they can. Microsoft announced today to kind of twist the knife a little bit that they are investing in their own AI chip to compete with NVIDIA, and they let that one slip today. Yeah, yeah. It's going to warm up. It's going to get hot. And then you've got Sam, right? Sam wants to make his chips, his $7 trillion idea to make chips. I mean...
Yeah, I don't understand what the hell is happening with that guy. He's like...
What? You must be this. It's like the art of the deal. It's like Trump style. You ask for $7 trillion, you end up with $900 billion.
But true. You think he's going to end up with $900 billion?
I mean, I'm just being wild, but... No. 500
so much
maybe?
money.
I know. It's nuts.
Like when you first told me last week, I thought it was a joke because it's very Dr. Evil, right? In fact, Dr. Evil was much more modest. He just wanted $1 billion. Right?
Yeah. I will see.
I mean, that's bigger than the whole industry. Mm-hmm. The whole, isn't it? Listen,
Yeah. It's bigger than most economies around the world.
It's like the GDP of one of our beloved actually a lot more than the GDP of most European nations.
I think if I recall, it was bigger than Germany's. So that tells us that. Alex continues. He is thinking about ordering the visor. That visor.com is the one that's basically like sunglasses. Now they have
Visor?
I think it's visor.com. It's $400. It's not. I don't think necessarily optimized for gaming, but it is optimized for working. Immersed also make the app that I like to bring your screens in. So now they're gonna have their own visor. It's tricky because I think it's their first hardware and they're a young company, And they have a membership program that takes the $900 device down to $400. But I think it expires, as Alex points out, like this Friday as we record. I find that to be kind of compelling from a device standpoint, but I feel like it's why not just wait and see, where the Quest is a sure bet right now. So,
yeah. Also, if you want to look like Usher, these are definitely the right choice.
But they're going to be a lot lighter. They're going to be a lot easier for people you work around to adapt to because they just kind of look like big sunglasses.
But they look like you saw Blade Runner very recently.
Yeah, but I think it's probably a better look than the ski goggles.
This is interesting though. They are pushing a lot of they see this as your new desktop.
Yes. Right.
Are you mirroring your computer? Or is that what?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you bring your screens in.
Oh yeah, so Windows, Mac,
and Linux. Yep. I've tested. That's what this Sunday's LUP was about. Is I brought my Plasma desktop into the immersed VR environment.
How was the performance?
What I did, and I don't know how it would work if you did the virtual desktops, but what I did, and it worked really well, is I went on Amazon and bought a 3-pack of the DisplayPort dummy adapters. So Linux thought there was 3 monitors. And it just mirrored those screens into the VR environment, and it worked like a frickin' champ. So what I'm doing now, and I love it, is I've taken one of my Linux workstations, and it's essentially headless, except for it has these dummy adapters. And when I want to access that Linux machine, I just put the headset on. It's a full Linux workstation with GPU and disk, and it runs NixOS. It's a beast of a box. Well, for me, my systems are old. And it's available on demand when I put the headset on here at the studio. It's actually on Tailscale, so maybe I don't think you'd want to use it over that. But yeah.
Is it now? How's like the text resolution? Could you theoretically code on this and not feel like you're going to throw up?
I would. Oh, definitely for a while. This is where I'd like your take. So what I've been using it for mostly is Slack, email, and meetings. I love it for meetings. But
yeah, I could see that.
Oh man. It's not perfect solution, but it greatly reduces Zoom fatigue because it's a little bit of a hack. You're on camera, but it's a stupid cartoony emoji version of you. So people can see you, and it nods when you nod. And you're participating in this video call, but you could be a mess. Your room can be a mess. You can be sipping on a drink, smoking a cigar. It doesn't matter. So you get like this relief.
Few of those cases seemed real specific there, Chris.
I'm just saying, I really liked it for the meetings. And Immersed has a really cool virtual camera mode where you can move the camera around inside your virtual environment. It's pretty neat. I would say the text is, in my opinion, a big step up from the Quest 2. Good enough that you can use it for a couple of hours, about as long as the battery lasts. And then you're going to be ready for a break anyways. I think you're going to want a new headset, so go check out the Linux Unplugged show notes because I linked to my 2 favorite headsets.
See, now I don't know. Maybe I should get this instead because I think. Well, you could tell me the Quest 2 is not. It's not super awesome at text rendering and all the.
The 2 is not. The 3 is better.
3 is better.
I don't know these visors. That's what they're built for. They're built for work. See, we're going into an era where you're going to have devices that are better at gaming. You're going to have general purpose ones that are kind of in the middle, and then you're going to have like the top tier, and you're going to have work specific ones. I would really like to see the visors work because I think overall that's what I'd really like to have is a couple of those for work, maybe one different headset for gaming. It's a weird future, but you have a couple of days to think about it. There, it could be a while before they say Q1, Q2, but again, they're a young company and hardware like this is hard.
See, the only thing that makes me, or a couple things, lean more towards the Meta 3 is one, Facebook has shipped 3 of these or 4 of these now, right? If you count the Pro, and even if the productivity stuff isn't for me, the gaming stuff surely will have some value.
Yeah, then you should probably go with the Quest, not the visor.
Yeah. And this is actually more expensive because you have the membership, which basically seems like a glorified payment plan with a couple. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Immersed is a good app, so I have high hopes for their future, and I think if they can ship that visor, they're going to have a real good product on their hands.
Demo unit?
Yeah. If I can get my hands on one, or you can, we'll try it for sure.
All right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or I'll be really interested to know what you think about using the Quest 3 for text and stuff long term.
Well, I'm starting to think that the future it's gonna be like you have a visor instead of all these monitors.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. The people that are really into it, it's silly. They have a blank desk with a Bluetooth keyboard and mouse that they sit down at, and then they just put everything in virtually on it. I think
it makes a ton of sense, though.
I kind of like it.
Yeah.
The one other thing that I think you'll like about the Quest 3 over, say, the Visor or the Apple Vision Pro is you can sideload APKs if you put it in developer mode. So I've sideloaded some emulators and things like that, and Slack and Telegram I have on there, a few other apps that are really nice to have, Firefox, things like that. So that's fun. All right, we're moving on. Vitamin C++ boosted a row of ducks for the amazing GitLab Meetings hack to get his family not to bother me while working.
Oh, I don't know if I feel good about this one.
No, it's good. It's good. However we can be of value. I appreciate that, Vitamin C++. Thank you for the row of ducks. Tampa Trekkie comes in with 10,000 sats.
Tough little ship. Little.
They're right. I managed to get through about half of the first season of Babylon 5. I'm still working on it for the B5 challenge. Since we are sharing favorite sci-fi franchises, I figured I'd share Space Above and Beyond. The show only made it a season, and it's done by the same folks who made X-Files. It's nearly out of print, and it's not available for streaming, but if you can pick up a cheap DVD copy, it's worth your time. You know what, Tampa? That is a great one. I saw it when it aired, Space Above and Beyond, and I'll co-sign that recommendation.
I will try to find it then.
Retro one, too, if you can find it, is Space 1999. I thought Space 1999 was such a cool series, and they had really futuristic but yet realistic starships, or spaceships. Which I like.
Spaceship?
G. Parkin comes in with Spaceballs boost, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sats.
So the combination is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the stupidest combination I ever heard in my life.
They write, I'm sending my favorite pod some support. I just saw the news that Collide has been acquired by 1Password. It can't be good news for Jupiter Broadcasting. I know they're one of your few sponsors left. I encourage other Coder long-timers to step up and boost in. Thank you. Shout out to the Commonwealth Saga as well. It's great stuff. Start with Pandora's Star and enjoy.
Peter Hamilton.
All right. This is like the third boost or fourth boost talking about Peter Hamilton, so I'm going to do it. I'm going to go pick up the audiobooks after the show, G. Parkin. Yeah, I did hear the news about Collide. We'll see. They've been a great sponsor to work with. Hopefully they'll keep working with us for a bit because I think it's a good fit. As somebody who spent time in IT. But thank you for the recommendation on the Commonwealth Saga. I'm going to pick it up. We had a couple other boosts below the cutoff. Maryland D-Jib came in at DJ Ib? I don't know. DD Ib? I don't know. But they were letting me know about it's almost 4 hours between Frisco and Austin. See, I got that one wrong. 6 boosts in total. 41,000 sats. Not amazing. But, I'll take it. It's fine. It's probably us. It's not you. It's us.
I blame you.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, though, everybody who does take time to boost in. We really appreciate that with one of those new podcast apps at podcastapps.com. And thank you, everybody who becomes a member. I think the Jar Jar promo code is live again for a few more redemptions. You can find that at coder.show/membership. Then you get access to a member version of the show that has no ads and the occasional member special, the Coderly, which will get published right in your feed, and you can download that. So thank you to our boosters and our members. This has been a value for value show. Mr. Dominic, is there anywhere you want to send the good peeps before we get on out of here?
Go to alice.dev, and I didn't get it up today. And please don't clip that, Drew. I realize what I just said. But there will be a special Coder Radio promo.
Ooh.
And that if we get enough, maybe I'll do a kickback to the show in the form of Peter Hamilton audiobooks.
All right. No, just do it. It's great. It's fantastic. You know what? We have some links. You might like them. They're at coder.show/558. I'm on WeaponX at ChrisLAS. The show is at Coder Radio Show, and the network is at Jupiter Signal. They do stuff over there. You probably know that. You probably already follow it at this point. So, there. Links to what we talked about, I already said that. The feed's over there. It's on the website. You know about that, too. It's got links. I've probably said that to you. Do you know about the live show? We've been doing it on Tuesdays, but you can always get it on jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar, then you don't have to worry about it. Or you can have a podcast and you don't have to worry about it. All right. Well, thanks for joining us. See you next week.
Bye-bye. What the fuck?
Oh my God.
There we go. All stoppaging. All stoppaging. Well done, Mr. Dominic. Well done. Well done. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Sorry,
Yeah, you type. Well, get the you type madly. I'll get the chat room to.
I wasn't mad.
Welcome to intermission.
We'll do a little vote
This week, I really got to get an NPR voice down.
Well, they talk like this, so you sometimes have to get a specialized microphone. You might want the specialized microphone so you can talk like this.
I almost just bought the visor, by the way.
Oh yeah, well, I mean it is tempting. I'll say that.
It's tempting.
And
but you know
$400 is definitely the right price.
Yeah.
Oops, it's show end. Oops.
All right, I gotta. Maybe I'll reach out to these people and be like, so how does this exactly work?
We've been talking about VR on the show. Our audience might be interested in a device that's actually approachable. You can always ask him.
I'm really curious about just the text resolution, because if it's garbage, then I don't really have a use for it.
Yeah.
And
I think that's their whole focus, though.
Yeah, well, I see that. I'm looking at one of their demo things. Like, the dude's literally in VS Code writing Python. So,
The quest for VR dominance. It's cute. Big Zuck energy was mine.
Big Zuck energy is pretty good.
Yeah, all right, let's go with it. Let's go with Big Zuck energy.
Well, I do like Old Man Yells at Server, but we could use that almost every week.
I know.
So we should just have a backlog of like
evergreens.
Let's see, Big Zuck energy. Let's give that a vote.
I like that. All right. Well, there we go. Well, if you get the Quest 3, let me know.
I will. I'll let you know.
Okay, Mr. Dominic.
All right. Talk to you next week.
Have a gosh darn good week.
You too. Bye, Z Chat Room. Bye.
Bye. All right, chat room. Thank you. Appreciate you hanging out with us today. I hope you enjoyed the stream, and would love to see you on Sunday for Linux Unplugged, or back here next week for this here pod, because we'll be back doing the same thing. And if you're in a Podcasting 2.0 app, we'll get it automatically in there, because we'll schedule it as pending, and we go live. We flip it live, and you don't even have to worry about the time math. All right, that's it for me. See you next time.
Hey everyone, we are live from my backyard, where I am smoking these meat like a brisket. I'm making meats now. Someone asked me, do I smoke meat? That's gonna be delicious. Yeah, if I smoke meat, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Give me the Zuck, give me the Zuck. C-U-C-C Zuck. Say my name, baby. Give me the Zuck, give me the Zuck. C-U-C-C Zuck. Smoking meat, hello to you. Thanks for hanging out with me in my backyard while I'm smoking these meats too. The thing about smoking meat is it takes a long time sitting around with my Wi-Fi. I like racing. Grilling meats, racing cars are two of the most fun things that you can do. Manual transmission, I enjoy that. Do I hunt? Yeah, smoking these meats.
Mr. Zuckerberg. Mr. Zuckerberg.
Zuck. Oh no, it seems I was daydreaming again.
That's why I made clear that you have had subpoenas. Is that correct?
Mr. Zuckerberg, what is Facebook doing to prevent foreign actors from interfering in U.S. elections?
We are smoking these meats, meat like a brisket. I'm making meats now. Someone asked me, do I smoke meat? It's gonna be delicious. Yeah, if I smoke meat, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Give me the Zuck, give me the Zuck. C-U-C-C Zuck. Say my name, baby. Give me the Zuck, give me the Zuck. C-U-C-C Zuck. Smoking meat, you smoke lemon chicken, smoke salmon, you'll love it. Bison sirloin, ribs and sausage. We got some more of pork ribs. We got a brisket. Yeah, that's right. You don't want to miss it. We have just applied the sweet baby rays. I want my baby back ribs. You know, it's a weekend, man. Break out the purple shirt. I wear the gray shirt to work while I was smoking meats earlier in the day.